Welcome back to The Explainer. I'm here on behalf of Forge College, and I am absolutely pumped to get into today's topic. We are looking at operationalizing Solana API best practices for CORS and rate limiting. Now, if you've been following along in our Web2 integration and API development on Solana track, you know this is our final operational step. Think of this explainer as your master engineering blueprint. We're going to take all that API security you've built in the testing lab, and we're going to transform it into a rugged, battle-tested production state.
So, in our previous lesson, diagnosing identity verification issues, we learned exactly how to check IDs at the door, right? We made absolutely sure everyone was who they said they were. But that brings us to a massive, multi-million-dollar question. We check the IDs, sure, but is our API actually ready for the stampede? I mean, what happens when unpredictable, totally chaotic public traffic suddenly hits our Solana API all at once? Will the system hold up, or is it going to completely melt down?
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our engineering schematic for today. 1. From testing to production. 2. The guest list, CORS. 3. The turnstile, our rate limiting. 4. Reading the API gauges. 5. The 72-hour tuning loop. And 6. Deploying your API shield.
Starting with Section 1, from testing to production. This is where the rubber meets the road. We're taking that working middleware you coded and layering in safe, highly scalable defaults so that your protections actually hold up when heavy traffic hits. And to do this, we really need to talk about design philosophy for a second. We have fail open versus fail closed. Imagine you run a bank. If the power suddenly goes out, would you rather the heavy vault doors just swing wide open for anyone and literally any passing raccoon to wander in? Or would you want them to lock down tight? Yeah, we'd all prefer the vault locks tight for sure. That is exactly what a fail-closed system is. When an error occurs or a request is missing data, the doors lock. Embracing a conservative, fail-closed behavior is the absolute core philosophy of our production build. Moving right along to Section 2, the guest list, also known as CORS.
If our API is an exclusive nightclub, origin management is basically like hiring an incredibly strict, totally unbribable bouncer. For anyone new to the term, CORS stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. It's a security mechanism that uses HTTP headers to restrict which external domains are allowed to talk to your API. In practice, the browser sends what's called a preflight request. Think of this preflight request as the bouncer stepping outside the club, checking the VIP list, and verifying the visitor's credentials before anyone is even allowed to set foot inside the building.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how we actually configure it in our code. Our origin whitelist is an environment-driven array, and this is huge. We strictly deny wildcard entries. No universally accepted VIP passes here, no way. If a request comes in and it's missing an origin header, it is immediately denied. That maintains our fail-closed stance. And by using environment variables, we get to dictate this whitelist dynamically. You can add or remove VIPs on the fly without having to rewrite or redeploy the whole application.
Which brings us to Section 3, the turnstile, rate limiting. So the bouncer let the right people in, great. But we still can't have thousands of people rushing the bar all at once. Relimiting acts as the mechanical turnstile, preventing a total stampede of requests from crushing our downstream Solana RPC quotas. To make this work, we use an algorithm called the token bucket. Let's break that jargon down into a really simple analogy. Imagine a literal bucket filled with arcade tokens. Every time an incoming request wants to pass through the turnstile, it has to take one token out of the bucket. Meanwhile, that bucket is magically refilling itself with new tokens at a set, steady rate. But if a sudden surge of traffic hits and the bucket runs completely empty, the turnstile locks. Requests are simply denied until the bucket has time to refill. And when that token bucket does run dry, what happens? Our express rate limiter steps in and throws a very specific HTTP status code, 429, too many requests. And when we throw this error, we make absolutely sure to output a clear JSON-formatted error body. This is completely crucial because it allows our monitoring systems to actually read, parse, and count the rejected events, instead of the system just failing silently in the dark. Let's move to Section 4, reading the API gauges, and see how this all connects. Okay, we've set up our bouncer, we've got our turnstiles working, now it's time to step into the control room. This diagnostic matrix is literally your operator's manual. It tells you the exact difference between a simple misconfiguration and a full-blown malicious bot attack. Let's walk through it together. Say you see a spike in your 429 rate, where 10% of your requests are getting rejected. Well, your limit might just be too strict or it's a bot. Your action? Check the origin breakdown and temporarily raise the limit if it's a trusted source.
What if you see preflight failures, where more than 1% of options requests fail? That usually means an origin is misconfigured, so you just need to update your origin whitelist. A spike in 5xx errors points to backend instability. Time to roll back your recent config changes. And if your latency shoots past your service level objective, like taking more than 500 milliseconds for 5 minutes straight, you've got RPC congestion, and you need to immediately throttle non-critical routes. Keep this table handy, it's a lifesaver in production. All right, on to section 5, the 72-hour tuning loop. So the crucial point here is, when you go to production, you don't just throw the master switch to full power on day 1 and walk away to grab a coffee. That is exactly how things break. Instead, we run a canary deployment to safely observe the traffic. It's a continuous, mechanical process. Step 1, you deploy your canary with safe, conservative defaults. Step 2, you sit back and just observe the traffic for 24 to 72 hours. Step 3, you adjust those per origin limits. And Step 4, you validate and document the changes. So you're observing and adjusting the token limits for specific partners, rather than dangerously raising the global quotas for everybody. And to do that effectively, you need visibility. Just like this traffic origin breakdown chart, which we pull right from our metrics summary script. This chart shows us exactly which slice of the pie is eating all our arcade tokens. Look at this. Our app example is taking 40%. A trusted partner integration is taking another 40%. But there's this unknown, rogue element eating up 20% of our capacity. Because our monitoring lets us actually see this happening, we can safely blacklist that rogue 20% and raise the token limits for our trusted partners.
And finally, we arrive at section 6, deploying your API shield.
Let's bring all these incredible components together. Remember, these operational steps form the exact artifact you're going to need to complete your final capstone project integration, and this brilliantly illustrates your operational checklist. To deploy your shield, you have to set your origin whitelist environment variable. You need to configure your rate windows and maximums. You must configure your metrics exporters so you can actually read your gauges. And always maintain a change log with rollback steps. But hey, pay really close attention to that third bullet point. Ensure your /health probes bypass strict limits. You have to leave your /health endpoint outside of your rate limits. If you don't do this, your own automated uptime probes will eventually consume all the tokens, trigger a total lockdown, and basically make your system think it's under a massive attack when it's really just checking its own pulse. I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Is your API shield a rigid wall, or is it a resilient, tunable machine? True operational security isn't just about setting a password and walking away. It's an ongoing, living process of observing, tuning, and adapting to the landscape. On behalf of everyone at Forge College, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. I really hope this gives you the absolute confidence to lock down your APIs like a total pro. To learn more about this subject, dive into our deeper courses, and explore some other amazing Web3 related topics, definitely head over to forge.college right now. Keep building, stay secure, and I will catch you in the next one.